Hi, Elaine here. Today I'll be sharing how to add links to your Affinity Publisher files. First, what we're not talking about today. The first thing we're not talking about is the Table of Contents feature inside Affinity Publisher. The Table of Contents feature uses a dedicated creation system relying on the correct use of text styles to make the links work. I've done a deep dive session on that and you'll find it at the link in the description. We're also not talking about cross-references either, which is worthy of a video of its own. What we are talking about is anchors and hyperlinks, and they are the key to effectively and efficiently adding navigation to your Affinity Publisher files. Today we're covering both, starting with hyperlinks. Hyperlinks are the mechanism used to provide navigation between areas in your publication or to link to external resources. What can you link to? You can link to a URL or a web address. You can link to an email. When I say link to an email, I mean link to an email client that will then create an email pre-addressed to the address you specify in your link. You can link to a page in your Affinity Publisher file, a section in your Affinity Publisher file, even another file, but personally I'd avoid that. And you can link to an anchor. More on that shortly. I have a file here with a range of pages and 2 extra pages that I've added that we can put some links on. So starting with the book online now. First of all, I have a shape, and within the shape I have some text. Next to that I have some plain text. So let's start with the plain text. Selecting that text and then right clicking, and we have 3 insert options together: insert an anchor, a hyperlink and a cross-reference. It's the hyperlink that we're interested in here. So click that. That brings up the hyperlink properties dialog box. First thing to think about in here is what you are linking to. So initially it's saying page, but I actually want it to link to an external website. So I'm going to choose URL. It automatically puts in the http:// and it follows that with whatever text was selected. Obviously that's completely incorrect. I'm just going to put a link into my website. You'll notice there's a From Data Merge option, but it's dimmed out. That's because this file is not data merge enabled. And then we can choose a character style. More on that later. But for the moment, I just intend to click OK. We now have a hyperlink, one single hyperlink in here, which is showing in the hyperlinks panel. Now I've got 2 panels showing here, hyperlinks and anchors, because that's what we're dealing with today. If you need to see those, you will find them from Window, References, and they are both available from within there. Now I've got a hyperlink, you can see that I have Book Online Now in the panel, and that is the link that I have just created. Now, what I'm going to do next is move back to my document and show you that it isn't just text that you can put a hyperlink on. So I've selected this group. And what I have in this group, let me show it you in the Layers panel. I have a shape and I have some text, and it's together in a group. Right clicking on that, down to the bottom, I have a whole range of additional options that I didn't have available when I was working with text, but I have interactive, and one of those is to insert a hyperlink. I'm going to do exactly the same thing again, so insert my website in there. Again, no data merge option, and OK. You'll notice there's a difference between those two, despite the fact they're both going to the same location. The first one is named Book Online Now. The second one is just named Hyperlink 1. And the reason is it doesn't know what to name it, because that was a group of items, the text and the shape, and it wasn't named in the Layers panel either. What I can do in here is select that, and I can call that the Book Now button. So you can rename those. Notice what happened as I did that. The links were reordered, and that is putting a URL in. Next thing to link to, an email. So I'm just going to add this one to the text, but right click on it, insert hyperlink. It does remember what you selected last time, but I need to change that to email. What I'm going to do in there is put an email address and click OK. And it adds that in because, again, it's text. The next one, is OneDrive. And OneDrive is a page in this document. So if I scroll down here and show you, I want to link to this page. Going back to my anchors and hyperlinks page, double-clicking on OneDrive, right-clicking, insert hyperlink, and this time it's remembered email, but I want it to go to a specific page. And the page in question, I do believe, is page 9, and click OK. And it's created that link. And you can see what's happening in the hyperlinks panel. These links are being added, and it's building up a range of them. Now, fun and games is another section in the document. Let me show you that. It starts down here. And it's a section of the document because it contains multiple pages. So let's get back to the anchors and hyperlinks and double click on the text, right click, insert hyperlink. This time it's a section. And notice there is a drop down titled section, and in there it has the 4 sections in my document, which is the cover, the introductory few pages, the main content, and then the just for fun at the back, which is the fun and games that I want. So selecting that and OK. Then we've got this agenda option here, and I want this to link to a file. Now, when I say I want this to link to a file, it would be nice, but from my experience, it doesn't work. But I'll show it you anyway. OK, what I need to do is exactly the same thing, right-click, insert hyperlink, and this time in the type, choose File. And it prompts me for a path of where is the file. So let's go and get the file. And it's this agenda PDF that I have here. And click Open. And what it does, it puts in there the full local path to that file. It also gives me an option to include the file on an export. What that means is when I export this file to a PDF with these links in it, would I like it to automatically include a copy of this extra file, the agenda file that I have linked to? That's probably a good idea, because if I were to send the PDF out somewhere, they're not going to be able to see it if the link is pointing to my local hard drive. So yes, we'll include that. What should happen with that is it should generate a second copy of the file, and its path is then relative to the PDF file that we export. And OK, as I say, I'm not confident that that will work, but we'll do it anyway. So what we now have in the hyperlinks panel is all the hyperlinks we've created, and you can see what's happened in here. It's made them alphabetical as well. Right, so let's have a look at this hyperlinks panel. There are options that you have in here. At the moment, it's showing you hyperlinks from the entire document, all the spreads. These are all the spreads I have available. This is how I could filter them. If I only wanted to see links that were on one particular page, I could select that in here. That's the first option. The second option is to show all types of links. Now, you know by now that there are page links, anchors, URLs, files, emails, and section. If you only wanted to look for URLs, you could filter it just for URLs. Unless you are overwhelmed with links, you may not need to do that. If you leave it at all types, you can see down the right-hand side that each type has its own dedicated icon. So the 2 that are URLs have a globe next to it. The email your questions has a mail. The fun and games has a section icon, and the OneDrive has a page icon. Then across the bottom you have some options. So moving off the agenda one, because that's not the best one to choose, that's a file. But let's have a look at fun and games. When I select one of the other options, you can see that the buttons on the bottom become available. The first of these options is to go to the source. That is the source of the fun and games. And it means the source of the hyperlink. It means go to the hyperlink, which it has, and it's selected it. However, the button next to that does the exact opposite. It actually goes to the target. Clicking that option takes us through to the destination for that hyperlink. So we're fun and games. Let's go back up to there. I'm going to use this navigator so we can have some consistency in where everything is. But that is what those 2 buttons do. You also have the option here to edit the hyperlink. And that takes you to your hyperlinks property dialog. You can change the type, the section. In fact, you can change anything you like in there. You also can create a hyperlink in here. Now, I didn't do it that way, but you can if you want. And you can remove hyperlinks by clicking the bin icon. So those are the options you have in that hyperlinks panel. Now, before I produce this file to a PDF and we test everything, we need to talk about anchors. Anchors are essentially destination points or bookmarks for readers to jump from various points directly to a specific location in your file. They're the most flexible destinations because you create them. But I must admit, I use them as a last resort, because unless I'm using a data merge, the overhead of creating all the anchors manually takes a long time. If you're wondering about a data merge, that's a whole different video. Let me know if you'd like to see that in another video. So what I'm going to do here is I have a page that's talking about data visualization. And I could link to a page here. I could do that. But what I'm going to do is to select the words data visualization and right click on them. And instead of inserting a hyperlink this time, because this isn't where I want the user to click, this is where I want them to go. This is the destination. And to do that, I'm going to insert an anchor. That brings up the insert anchor dialog. And because it's text I'm putting it on, it gives it a name of data visualization. And I have an option to export this as a PDF bookmark if I want to. Actually, in this file, I don't need to, because I have an automatically generated table of contents. But we'll leave it turned on. What's the worst that could happen? I'm tempting fate there, you know. And at that point, I'm going to click OK. I now have a destination. Moving back to my anchors and hyperlinks page and selecting the text on there, I'm going to add another hyperlink. This time I'm choosing the one option we've not used yet, which is anchor. I only have one single anchor in the file, so it's selected it for me. If I had more, they would all be listed in there, and then I just click OK. So be it an anchor or any other kind of destination in your file, everything works the same way when it comes to creating hyperlinks. Now, one thing I haven't done at this stage is add a hyperlink to a graphic. I've added a hyperlink to that shape that we had there, our Book Online Now shape, but I haven't actually added a hyperlink to an image, but you can do that. I right click on there, we go down to interactive. I can make that graphic an anchor, but I can also insert a hyperlink. So we could have it that that image also navigates us to the data visualization page just by clicking OK. And what that does is it puts an anchor in here, just like our data visualization there. But this one does have a name. It's called infographic. It's picked that up from the layer name. If we look at the layers panel, that's where that's coming from. And at that point, we have all of our hyperlinks that we can now test. One more thing to show you before I produce this file out as a PDF. And that is you have an anchors panel. When you create an anchor, it will appear in the anchors panel. Again, you can filter it by spread. And at the bottom, once you've selected it, you can navigate to it. So it will take you to the destination or the location in the document where the anchor exists. You can also add an anchor from here and delete anchors from here. So those are the two panels that support your use of anchors and hyperlinks within Affinity Publisher. What I'm going to do now is produce this file to a PDF. Now, I have got pre-flight warnings on it. I don't think there's anything catastrophic, it's mainly spellings. So I'm going to choose to ignore and continue. And that takes me to the export dialog. I'm using the PDF Digital High Quality preset. You need to make sure that you produce this PDF to a digital output because, as I scroll down here, you need to include the hyperlinks in it. So I am going to export that. Now what I'm going to do in my destination folder, I'm going to make an exported folder. There is a reason for this. And I'm going to leave it set. Let's get rid of my panels that are in the way. I'm going to leave it set to Office Summit and click Save. Now you saw I actually created that folder and there was nothing in there. That's important because if you remember when we linked to the agenda file, we told it to export that file when we created our PDF. So we need to go to the Finder and have a look what it actually did. There's our exported folder. There is the copy of the PDF agenda that I linked to, and this is the file that we're working with, the file that's open that we're working with. Opening up the exported folder, we do have the PDF, and we also have a second copy of the agenda file. So it didn't move it, it generated a second copy of it. So let's have a look what we've got in our Office Summit file. So I've exported it with the spreads. There's the cover. This is actually my table of contents, and as I hover over these, you can see these are links. They are hyperlinks and they do work. But the links we're interested in are the ones that we have created in here. So let's zoom in a little bit and have a look at those. I have helpfully put next to them what they all were. So URL should go to my website. Email will crank up your default email client and generate an email. I doubt it's going to do that on my machine. I don't have an email client. You're wondering, aren't you? I use Gmail in the browser. Next, there's OneDrive. That was a link to a page. Then we've got the fun and games. It was a link to a section. We've got the agenda, link to a file, and we've got the link to our anchor. Let's see what happens when I click on the URL link. It knows it's an external link, and it's asking me for permission to open it in my default browser, which is Browser Ninja. Now, that's not really a browser. It allows me to direct traffic between browsers. But let's just assume it says Safari, or in my case, Vivaldi. So I'm going to open that up. And it does indeed open it in my browser, and it's going to the correct location. So far, so good. As I say, the email client one won't work on my machine because I don't have one. But let's try the OneDrive page. And that should take us to OneDrive, and it does. So the Pages link is working. The next one was Fun and Games. That was going to a section. Clicking on that, and it takes us to the beginning of that section. This is all going alarmingly well, isn't it? It's all about to go south, as we say. Because this time I'm looking for the agenda file. And this is the problem that I have, and I'm on a Mac. I have no idea what would happen on a Windows machine, or worse still, an iPad. No idea. But it's telling me that it couldn't open the file because I don't have permission to view it. It's my file. I created it. I'm down as the owner, but that has happened multiple times. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. What I would do in the circumstance that you want to link to a second file is upload that file to an online service and share it, and then use that link instead of a file link. So you make a link that's a URL and you link to the URL, because this is just too prone to failure to rely on it. Now, the last link that we have in here is the data visualization one, and that is going to an anchor that we created. And as you can see, it loads this in and it takes us to precisely where we put the anchor. The anchor was put on the words data visualization, and that is exactly where it's taken us. Not to the top of the page, which is a little bit higher, actually taken us to where the anchor is. So anchors give you a lot of control. Let's head back to Affinity Publisher for a bit of a bonus, which is, you'll notice that all the links are blue by default, and that's due to a default character text style that exists in all Affinity Publisher files by default. So if we go into our text styles panel here, we have a style called Hyperlink. And if you remember, when we were creating these links, it did prompt you for a style, and by default, it was set to hyperlink. That's why they're blue, because everybody understands that if text is blue and underlined, it's probably clickable. You can change that if your design demands it. But it's best to make it obvious that it's a link though, and the easiest way to do that is to leave the underline in place. But let's have a look at changing it. If you right-click on Hyperlink and you select Edit Hyperlink, you can see that the text fill is set to blue. Now, it might make sense in a document like this that I have this set to the office colour, and then it would look like the rest of my text. If I do that, you can see that all of those blue hyperlinks have now changed to be orange. Whether that is a good idea or not depends on your audience. Are they an audience that expect links to only be blue? Or are they an audience that appreciates if it's underlined, it's probably clickable? Only you know the answer to that. But there you have it, anchors and hyperlinks in Affinity Publisher. They are incredibly powerful. Just remember, you need your digital output as a PDF to make them work. Let's have a quick recap. Hyperlinks allow you to build navigation into your documents. You're able to link to URLs, email, document pages, document sections, even external files, but that didn't end well, did it? As predicted. And anchors. Anchors being custom destinations in your Affinity Publisher file. Custom in terms of not necessarily being pages or sections, just destinations that you deliberately create to act as destinations for hyperlinks. Once you've output your PDF, test the links and distribute your file. If you want new tutorials and tips and tricks on a regular basis, check out my free training at elainegiles.com/VIP. Hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss future tutorials. And if you have any requests for specific tutorials, be sure to contact me. I would love to hear from you. Thanks for watching and see you next time.